This podcast is part of the C-Suite Radio Network, turning the volume up on business.
Welcome to the Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer. Join us as Deb talks with her guests, experts in their fields, as they share real-life stories and techniques to power up your business.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about talking with professionals about how to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're going to be having so much fun because we're going to be talking about how to make yourself visible. And we've got these great products, we've got these great services, and nobody knows we're here. So how are we going to go about making sure that people know that we exist? So it was with great pleasure that I am joined today by Cindy J Holbrook. So welcome, Cindy J.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Great. Well, let me tell people just a little bit about you. So Cindy J Holbrook, aka the Visibility Wiz, is uniquely gifted at guiding entrepreneurs to thrive as they go up the ladder from being the best kept secret to a trusted and in-demand online authority. Clients benefit from her empowering systems and strategies that enable them to honor their own integrity and attract their ideal clients while building a fun and profitable online business. So again, Cindy, welcome.
Thank you again, Deb. It's definitely my pleasure.
Great. Well, Cindy J, let's take a step back and tell us how it is that you discovered that this is your passion in life.
Oh, coaching. Yeah, I was a born entrepreneur. When I was a small child, I used to go to this park, probably around 10 or 11 years old, and the Los Angeles riverbed separated the park from a golf course. So I used to go play in the riverbed and collect all the golf balls, and then I would take them home, wash them, and then take them back to the golfers and sell them. It was a lucrative business when I was small.
I bet.
And pardon me?
I bet.
Yeah. And so, when the internet, I've always fiddled around a little bit, let's say, with a lot of things. Like I've sold Tupperware. I was very good with Tupperware for years, as let me stay at home with my children when they were young. But then when the internet came out, I knew that there was something on the internet that would really be my calling. Mm-hmm. So I went from different types of businesses, and I learned a whole lot from all of these businesses. In 2009, I found coaching, totally fell in love with coaching. I love helping people. I worked in social services for over 20 years, so that shows, my dedication to mm-hmm. helping people grow and really discover who they are. And when I became a coach, I was very fortunate because I had all this past experience from all these other businesses that I mm-hmm. had online, that I knew how to get visible. Mm-hmm. I live in a very small area, and I'm literally 90 miles from anywhere. So while I was working full time, I couldn't very well drive 100 miles right. and speak and then drive mm-hmm. home. It just wasn't feasible. Mm-hmm. So I had to use only online resources mm-hmm. to be visible and to be known. Mm-hmm. And what I found happening, I started coaching as a divorce coach. And what I found happening whenever I would go to networking events, other coaches would come up to me and they'd go, Cindy J, how did you get on Huffington Post Live? Right. How did you get on eHarmony? Mm-hmm. How did you get on Prevention? Mm-hmm. How did you get on Fox? How did you get all of these places? Mm-hmm. Can you show me how? So I started showing other coaches how to be visible online. Mm-hmm. And so I sort of morphed into being the Visibility Wiz. 2 years ago, I totally shut down my divorce coaching and went full-time with the visibility coaching.
Great. And it is, as we were saying, it's, we start our business, and we know that we've got this great product, this great service. Otherwise, why start our business? But we're not quite sure what to do, and so many times we attend every networking event that we can, and you mentioned that's just not possible for you, so or we try this and we try that, and what we do is we end up spinning our wheels, and so what is it that a person really needs to initially do to make sure that they stand out from the crowd?
One of the biggest things that people don't do is they haven't really decided what they want to be known for.
Okay.
And they're talking to everybody. When I was on my path to coaching, when I was an affiliate marketer, I had a website that I was getting 30,000 unique visitors each month to.
Wow.
And I didn't have any clients, and I really had very few sales because it was just a mix match of anything and everything. So there was nothing congruent there. Even when I started my divorce coaching, I thought, hey, I'm going to coach divorced women. And this was my niche. But I really didn't know what I wanted to be known for. And I didn't understand at that time that you really need to narrow down who your ideal client is and what you want to be known for. Because I actually, even in divorce coaching, I had 3 businesses in one. Because somebody who is thinking about divorce, and somebody who is going through divorce, and somebody who's already divorced and trying to pick up the pieces, speak 3 different languages.
Right.
So in order to be visible, you have to speak the language of the person you're speaking to. So you have to know who your ideal client is, which is a lot more than just a niche. Right. Divorce coaching was a niche, but had I narrowed down to after divorce or during divorce, it would have really narrowed it down, the niche even more.
Right.
But also, you need to, when people know who you are, I'm a big fan of having this short verbiage to describe who you are.
Okay.
That's why I'm the Visibility Wiz. A couple of my mentors were America's Inner Peace Coach, the millionaire marketing mentor, and then I believe that I heard, I never coached this person, but I think there's somebody out there that says they're the soulmate finder. So whenever you have names like this, people automatically connect with what you do.
Right.
They
know right away
who
what
you
it is.
are.
Right. And we've talked about that before on the program where, you ask somebody, who is your target client? And they smile at you and they're very proud to say everyone. And I've shared this on the program before where, I was at a networking event and was talking to someone who sold skincare products. And so we said, who's your target market? What skincare products? And so she said, everyone. None of us could think of somebody that we could refer her to because it was, it was actually pretty specific. And it was like we didn't know anybody who had skin, right? And, but so we worked with her and said, okay, no, you need to fine tune. And of course, what she said was, but I don't want to miss anybody, somebody, and that is, of course, the hard part for a small business owner. We don't want to miss people. But, when she got it down to, she sold skincare products for teenage boys who had acne. Now, that's a pretty small group, but every single one of us knew somebody to refer her to. And so we then, when we knew more about what she was doing, we were able to help her because, like I said, we couldn't remember anybody with skin, but we all knew somebody who was, had a teenage boy who had acne. So she had it really small. Now, clearly she could help a lot of people, but, that was what, what really helped her was to get down to that really fine concept of who her clients were. And, so that meant that she was, in essence, eliminating a whole lot of people. Right. But, those people might not have been interested anyway.
What's interesting about that, see, in my mind, that's still a niche. Whenever I talk about your perfect ideal client, I even narrow it down more.
Okay.
Everybody that hears you, they're 30% are going to love you, 30% are going to hate you, and the other 40% are going to be neutral. You want to focus on those 30% people that love you. These are your perfect ideal clients. They're the ones that are going to refer you to other people. They're going to love you. But it goes more down to like personality. They're wired to resonate with you in the way that you speak. So even though she was selling skincare products, the way that she presented herself may or may not have matched somebody else's personality.
Right.
So you have to think of your personality and who your ideal client is. Like, my ideal client has a big heart. and they love helping people. My ideal client is has a sense of humor, and my ideal client loves stories. I'm a natural born storyteller, and so sometimes when I coach people, I coach them through stories even. And so this is who I am. And some people hate stories.
Right.
But also, when I first started coaching, it was one of my first clients. And every time after I hung up the phone with this woman, I would cry.
Oh.
Because she was very, she was very mean to me.
Oh, no.
She did not like the way that I pronounced words. I always say that I was a confused child. My mother was from New York. My dad was from the South. And
yeah, you heard.
I was a very confused child picking up these different accents. I went through speech class through the 7th grade, and I know even today there's some words, I think I'm pronouncing them right, but I'm not.
Right.
And so she didn't like the way that I said women versus woman. And she would yell at me, literally yell at me.
Okay, she had issues.
She had issues. Yeah, she definitely had issues. And being a new coach, I'm like, well, what am I doing wrong? I'm supposed to be helping this person. And my coach, I'm a strong believer that any coach always needs to have a mentor coach that they can talk with. She said, fire her. And I said, what? I can fire her?
She's paying me.
It's your business. You can fire her.
Right.
I was like, yay. Well, but she was not my perfect client. She fit my demographics. She fit my demographics. Right. And that's why I think it's so important to realize your perfect client, even though somebody fits your demographics, they still may not be your perfect client.
Right.
I relate this to if you're looking for a soulmate, you're not going to say every single man out there is, I want to look at every single man out there. Right. You're going to have a really clear idea about what type of a man you're looking for. Or if you're a man, you're going to have a very clear picture of what type of a woman you're looking for. And we don't, whenever people start their businesses online, they don't narrow it down. They think, everybody, I can help everybody. Right. But they're really hurting themselves. And if somebody's wired to work with you, it doesn't matter what you call yourself. Even though this woman sold skincare products for teenage boys with acne, I'm sure she also got clients of older men and women who had acne. Yeah, right? You're not blocking anybody out, but you have somebody who you're getting a very clear, concise language with, and you can talk their language, but other people will resonate. I was, my website was actually coachingfordivorcedwomen.com. So it was divorcing, women.
That's
I can't tell you how many men I coached. You know, men would they'd read my website, they'd sign up for my list, and they'd email me, do you work with men too? I go, sure I do. But because they resonated with what I was saying, and they were my perfect clients because they resonated with what I was saying.
Right. And I think so many people don't stop to think, as you said, about those other values, that someone may or may not have, because we get caught up in, we've got our little box and we've developed who our perfect client is. And, we forget that there's people, around that will fit, like you said, the woman who sold skincare, clearly a secondary market for her is going to be girls who have acne, teenage girls, that's it's going to, but, and she just kind of arbitrarily decided, this was who she was going to sell to. But yeah, we don't think about those other things. And I love how you bring it back to kind of thinking about dating, because, we don't just look for, race, color, age, money, let's be honest, especially if you're getting a little more long in the tooth, money's important. But yeah, we do think, we want them to love to travel. We want them to have a sense of humor, or we want them to be very serious. I mean, all these various things. And so, once someone has figured that out, then what? Does it mean they're going to write the text of their website? What does this mean?
Well, yes, the two things. Number one, knowing what you want to be known for. Okay, I want to be known as a Visibility Wiz. So therefore, everything that I speak about, everything that I write about is always directed around online visibility of some
Okay.
sort. And it's not just social media. I know social media, but it's not just social media. There's a lot of other ways to get visible online.
Right.
And also video. You know, a lot of people, they're terrified of video and they don't want to start out with video. I do believe that everybody should learn to build up the confidence to be on video, because that's the way that we're going. But you don't have to hop on video the day after you decide that you're going to be in business, because it's scary. It took me a year practicing before I got comfortable on camera. So then after so then I need to know who. I'm losing my mind. You need to be clear and concise with what your message is, and everything has to go back to it. I had a client, she was a health coach, and she was always showing people her photography pictures. And I said, what are you doing?
Right.
And she goes, well, I'm getting a whole bunch of likes and people love my pictures. And I'm like, but that's not the visibility you want. These people that like your pictures aren't interested in your holistic health products.
Right. Yeah.
And so you have to, everything that you're talking about has to always go back to what you want to be known for. So everything that I talk about always has something to do with visibility or your mindset to be visible, because mindset is always number one with anything. You have to, say, hey, I want to be visible. And we have a lot of barriers to being visible. It's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. We're afraid of rejection. We're afraid of being called names. We're afraid of bad comments. We're afraid of being a laughingstock. We're afraid of not being perfect, so we try to be perfect.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
there's all these fears. Yeah, there's just so many fears wrapped around visibility. So whenever somebody says, yeah, I want to be visible, it's like, do you really? What is this conflicting belief that you have inside of your mind that's making you sabotage your own visibility? And this also is why I think people do sometimes go out and do something like my holistic health coach that was showing off her photography work. Her photography work was safe.
Right. And she probably loved it.
She did. And they were great. I loved her photography, but it wasn't selling her holistic health.
Right. But Cindy J, that actually made me think about the people that are doing multiple things at once, and in this day and age, I mean, a lot of people do that. They do the side hustle, or things like that. And, and I love it when I'm at a networking thing and, somebody walks up and hands me 3 or 4 business cards, or even just 2, because they do this and they do this, and, and you're like, wait a minute. And, or they'll ask me, I do multiple things. How do I do that online? And it is confusing, so but it is something that many people do, and so what do you tell people like that?
Yeah, a lot of people do. You have to choose one thing and only one thing, and you have to make that profitable before you go on to something else.
Okay.
You can't have more than one business. However, every person has to decide themselves, because you can only focus on one. You can't divide your attention between 2.
Right.
I hear this on Shark Tank a lot. I don't know if you ever watched Shark Tank, but I love Shark Tank, but they're always like, you're not all in. You're not all in your business. And if you have 4 different businesses, you're not all in any of them. So you need to choose one, 100% focus on building that up. Once you have that as a smooth sailing machine where it's not taking up much of your time, you have different people handling different parts, then you can move to another one if you so desire. But I believe most people, if they have 3 or 4 things they're trying to do, it's like they're throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. Which business is going to be the most profitable for me? Well, sadly, if you're trying to do 4 businesses at once and you haven't got any of them off the ground, none of them are ever going to go off the ground. It's you look at the restaurant industry. They do this all the time. They open 1 store at a time. They get that store profitable. They open a second one, get that profitable. Whenever, like even the franchises, if you're going to franchise a McDonald's, or I had a brother-in-law that was a franchise owner of Little Caesars, and he wound up with 10 Little Caesars store. But believe me, if he would have tried to start with all 10 at the same time, he would have failed. He did the first one, got it going, did the second one, got it going, did the third one. And that's what we need to do. One thing at a time, one focus.
Well, it's interesting. I had somebody that came to me one time and he had, I don't know. He did two things and I'm not quite sure why, and so one of the things, so his day job was that he sold insurance. And then on the weekends, he was a landscaper. So, I mean, you can't get much more different than that. And, and he had no intention of doing just one. I mean, he loved being able to do both. And so actually what I told him, I said, okay, well, LinkedIn is where you're going to set up your insurance presence. And I said, and Facebook is where you're going to set up your landscaper presence. And I said, and because what happened was he was trying to combine into, especially on LinkedIn, and I mean, LinkedIn, LinkedIn doesn't like you to have more than one profile. So, that was, so he had two in one, and all it did was it confused people. It was like, well, wait a minute, which one are you? And, or did you have a mistake in your profile? Had you, all these various things. And so when he split his presence, he liked that, but yeah, it's like you said, there's so many places online to be able to do things. It gets confusing, and it is hard for people who, whether by choice or because they're kind of forced to, are doing multiple things. But, the nice thing is you can split where your presence is. It just, but you're right. Your head is not 100% in either of them.
But even with this gentleman, I mean, he already had both of these businesses established. And he knew that he liked both of them. I'm sure the landscaping, for whatever reason, probably gave him peace of mind being outside. He liked gardening. So the landscaping probably, I would assume, started out more of being a hobby.
It was.
And the insurance was like his day job, his regular job. And this was where his big money was. But he needs the hobby in order to stay centered.
Right.
And this is just my picture of the gentleman. But yeah, he can't put them both because people are confused. And I would have given him the same advice you did. Now, had he not been established in either of these businesses, I would have told him to choose one.
Right.
See, and that's the big difference. He was already established.
Right. And it's funny because that's exactly what happened to me, way back when I started Wise Women Communications, my business. I started it as, at that point, I don't even know if they called them side hustles, but, I started it as kind of, a second business. I was working for another company, now they knew that I was doing this, so there was not any conflict or anything. And so I started Wise Women, and but could only put a certain amount of time into it because I had my day job. And and I met with a business coach, and I remember very distinctly, I mean, and this is 25-ish years ago, she told me that I was playing at being a business owner. And I was kind of offended at that, but and she said, and until I had to make it work, I wouldn't make it work. And of course she was right, because I could fall back on, that other job. But I still remember, and this was 20 years ago, one of the hardest things I had to do was go in and tell my current employer I was leaving, because I liked them. I liked the people. I liked what I was doing, but I really had to decide what one was I going to do.
Exactly.
And I was like hanging on, I jumped off the diving board, but then I turned around and grabbed it, and I was hanging on for dear life, and I needed to let go. And I think that's one of the things that is the hardest for a business owner to do when we're going off on our own, is when to really let go of that diving board.
Part of it, especially with the job, like I worked in social services, so I had my full-time job. I knew that I was going to get this paycheck each week I could depend on. And also, for a lot of the other things I did online, I think that was more playing, and I made decent money at quite a few things, but it was never nothing that I felt like I could just leave social services with. But when I began coaching in 2009, and I took an early retirement from social services in 2011. But during that time, I was able to build up clientele and build up my coaching business. So if that's your goal, especially to our listeners, if that's your goal, to quit your day job and take it on time, you know, as long as you know that that's your goal, you can still do
Right.
both. You can still work and build your business. And then once your business is making more money, or you know, you feel halfway safe, then go. Another thing is, I hated my job. I hated it, especially near the end. I loved my clientele,
Right.
but I hated the politics.
Oh, and all the paperwork and all of that.
The paperwork didn't even bug me as much as the politics, because I worked for the government, and working for the government is more suckier than having to deal with the government.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, you know, a lot of laws, a lot of regulations. So it definitely, you know, put a damper on what I was doing. But I really wanted the freedom to be able to do things my way. So it was always my goal to take my business full time. And, you know, it's definitely possible. But I also know people who have just quit their jobs, to take their business full time. And
or been
a
forced,
personal decision.
Maybe they didn't quit. Maybe the employer said you're done.
That, you know, that's true. I always say, and I believe, I'm a huge believer in the law of attraction. And if you really want something bad enough and you're afraid to take the
something will happen.
Sometimes something will happen. My son, for quite a few years, talked about starting his own business. He's a land surveyor. But he was a single dad, and he really didn't want to lose. He knew, working for somebody else, he knew that he had this money coming in. So then he was in an accident, broke his neck. He's recovered 100%. But after he broke his neck, his boss fired him.
Oh, no.
So he then asked his doctor, he goes, well, can I network? Can I get a business license and start my own business? And can I network with people until you release me to go back to work? And that's what he did. He, probably within 2 or 3 months of his accident, he was like networking, and he already had a name in the industry, but his business took off really good, really fast, really quick. And, you know, he's never looked back. But it's really interesting, because had he not broke his neck and got fired, he probably would have always been stuck in that trap. You know, how can I really make it on my own whenever I have this stable income to take care of my son?
Right. Well, and, you know, it is one of those things where you're thinking, you know, stable income, benefits, you know, especially for someone who is a parent, you know, you need insurance, all those various things. And so it's tricky, but, you know, what are some of the other things that scare small business owners? You know, because anybody who thinks this is easy, no, So what are some of the other fears that they need to overcome?
You know, I talk about, a lot of people, when I first started being the Visibility Wiz, I'd ask people, what does visibility mean to you? And also, and, you know, talking to people, it's like, what do you want to do? So it's interesting. Some people think that visibility is being number one on Google. And that's not visibility, because it's not giving you those ideal, perfect clients that you want. But also, when I would ask people, one of their big things is, I haven't done anything because I don't know what platform to go on. I'm so confused. Should I do Facebook? Should I do Twitter? Should I do YouTube? What do I need to put on my website? Oh, my website's not perfect yet. I have to keep reading. I had a client who worked on her website for 2 years because she didn't want to show it to people. It wasn't good enough. It doesn't reflect who I am. Okay, so what these fears are is, number one, especially with the website, is the fear of rejection. But even whenever you narrow down, well, I don't know where to start, it goes back to the fear of rejection, the fear of not making it. You know, I don't want to waste time. No time is wasted if you're learning.
Right.
And so what I find people doing is they'll go from one thing to the next, and they never give anything a fair chance. They say, you choose one platform and you do that platform and only that platform for 2 to 3 months before you move to another one. Each platform's unique, and, you know, there's learning curves to each of them. But your ideal client is going to be on every single platform out there. And a lot of people's like, where are my clients? Where are my clients? And I'm like, if you're out there looking for your clients, it reminds me of somebody, if you're walking down this busy street, with shops, and then a shop owner comes running out and grabs you and pulls you in. This is you saying, I have to find my ideal clients. I have to find them. I have to find them. The shop owners aren't going to come and pull you in.
No.
What do? They have this window dressing that's pretty to invite you in.
Yeah.
And this is why visibility is so important. You want to be there. So whenever somebody's searching for your expertise, you're going to show up somewhere, maybe on Facebook, maybe on Twitter, maybe on YouTube, maybe your website, maybe on a guest article you wrote for somebody. But this is what visibility is. It's you being in front of your ideal audience. If your ideal audience is moms of toddlers, and everybody that's seeing you are 50-year-old men, you're not going to be.
No, you're not in the right place.
So therefore it's your language. It goes back to what I said at the beginning, your language.
Okay.
Because if you're talking to that mom of toddlers, that's who's going to automatically pick it up. They're going to go, wow, she's talking about me. People tell me that all the time. It's like, wow, you know me. This is exactly what I was thinking. And that's because I know who my ideal client is. And if you don't, you can't talk to them that way.
No. And that comes back to you, as you said, you have to know who your ideal client is. Because if
that is so important.
Everybody, we're appealing to no one.
Right. So if you're sitting there and you're saying, I don't want to waste time, you're wasting time doing nothing.
Right.
And it's time to sort of check into yourself and ask yourself, what am I afraid of? I tell people that one of the ways to get out there and get visible is you want to be outrageously confident. And they're like, oh, outrageously confident.
How on earth?
Okay, now number one, confidence is not a state that anybody ever arrives. Right. Confidence is a state of being. You were not confident you could tie your shoe until you learned to tie your shoe. You were not confident that you could drive until you learned to drive. So you have to learn it to be confident. So if you're waiting for confidence, you're never going to get there. So my definition of confidence is being willing to try something that you're terrified to do or that you've never done before.
Okay.
Willing to try it. Outrageous is to be very bold, unusual, and startling. So if you pick up that outrageous confidence, it means that you're going out of your comfort zone. You're doing something that you wouldn't normally do. You're being bold by stepping into who you are. You're not trying to be somebody else. A lot of people they think they have to be perfect, as I said, because they're afraid of that rejection.
Right.
Well, Deb is really popular, and so I think I'm going to do everything exactly the way Deb does it. I have to talk the same way. I have to use the same words. Like, no, this is not you. You have to be you, because that's who the people that you're here to serve need you to be you.
Right.
And so it's just confident to step out and do something a little bit different. I have different props that I use sometimes in videos. I don't have any next to me right now, but this is me being fun and different, but it's who I am.
Right.
And people will resonate with that whenever they see it. And if some people won't use props. Also, I'm a storyteller. Like I told the story of my son. I told the story of the golf balls to be an entrepreneur. Some people are not storytellers, so they're not going to be telling stories.
Right.
So you have to be who you are. So you can't sit there and mimic the other person. You have to be outrageously confident just to be yourself and take that deep breath and know that you are speaking to that 30% that love you. That's all you're focusing on, that 30% that love you. And when you get the haters and stuff, that just means that you're moving up in the world.
Well, and they're not going to buy from you anyway, so it's kind of like, who cares?
Exactly.
But and I love that we absolutely have to be authentic to ourselves, and when we see someone who isn't, we pick up on it almost immediately. And I think that's one of the things with social media. Is we can see that really fast. One of the easiest ways is, to think about somebody who is telling jokes, who clearly isn't good at telling jokes, and or like you said, being on camera. I mean, if they are just terrified about being on camera, they shouldn't be.
Exactly.
But there are classes, there's all sorts of things. I tell people, because one of the best ways for people to be known is to speak, right. to present and things like that. And for some people, I mean, that just, it is, they really would rather die. I mean, it is just terrifying to them. And so I tell them, okay, Toastmasters. Now I've never been part of Toastmasters, but I know Toastmasters is a great organization to do that, and you still, but it reaches a point. I mean, if you are just deathly afraid and it's not going to get better, then don't do it. I mean,
exactly. But practice. That's a big thing. It's practice. The only way, like I said, you didn't know how to tie your shoe till you learned how to tie your shoe. That's when you became confident. When I started doing video, I was like, literally, my name is Cindy J. Today we will be talking about confidence.
Yeah,
that was actually one of the first videos I made about confidence. So funny.
I love it.
And my daughter was like, "My God, Mom, that doesn't even look like you." Because she's used to me moving. She's used to all of my, and I was trying to be perfect. I was trying to pronounce each word perfectly. And I knew that I wanted to do video. So I practiced. Nobody never seen them, but I practice. If you want to do Facebook Live, all you need to do when you turn on Facebook Live is you set it to where only you see it. This is a great way to practice. Nobody's going to see it but you. You just change it from public or friends to just only you. So you can practice till your heart's content. And it took me a couple of years to get comfortable. Now, I also, two things. First of all, on my website, I do have, CindyJHolbrook.com, I have an article that I wrote about 7 ways to be visible without being on camera. Because I understand you don't want to wait till you're confident to be on camera before you get visible.
You could be dead.
You can get visible without being on camera. But I honestly believe that it should be everybody's goal to get confident on camera. Second of all is whenever you do camera, with me, like I said, I did that, but now I host a weekly podcast as well, which is on camera. I'm also, this is the second year that I've hosted a summit. I'll be hosting my Rocking Online Visibility Summit. I have 32 experts that are going to share tips on being visible on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and how to blog for profit. So I have some really great guest speakers, but I edit all of my videos. And so it's something that I enjoy doing, and it gives me like this creative process. But what's really funny is whenever I first started editing my videos, I was like trying to cut out all of my ands or my ums. And now I'm like, oh, well, that's just me. I've gotten very used to who I am because I watch myself. I think I'm going on like 80 some odd podcast guests. And I've interviewed, last year I had 42 guests on the summit. This year I have 32. So I've like, even just me interviewing somebody else is 180 videos that I've edited of me. And believe me, there's nothing that gets you as confident as just seeing you. And it's like, oh, well, I'm just me.
And that's part of being authentic, and it is, biting off small things. You're like, this program is an hour long. So if someone had never done something like this before, probably not a good place for them to leap in. So you start with, say, a 10-minute program or even less. I mean, there are some people who do 1-minute interviews, and so you find things that fit, and then you go, and again, you absolutely have to realize we are not perfect. There are things that we do get better at, with practice. I still remember one of the things, moved from Denver to here, to Atlanta, and someone listened to my radio program, and this was when it was just audio, and he was so sweet. He said, You've got such great content, but darling, y'all need to slow down. And, and because when I get excited, of course, I speak fast, and I just always have, and so I do consciously think, slow down when I'm speaking, but I'm not going to go really slow, because then that's just not me. I'm probably also going to say things like, and do I say them as much as I used to? No, because you catch those things and you start working on it. But it takes practice. Nobody was absolutely perfect. I mean, if we have to, look at actors and look at some of the first things that they did on camera, and they're just absolutely hilarious. And now they're winning Oscars and Emmys and all of those things. Nobody is perfect when they start out.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's it. I always ask people, would you expect a first grader to pass a 12th grade test?
Right.
And they say no. You don't, nobody would, but why do you expect yourself to pass this 12th grade test when there's something you're just in first grade in?
Right.
Be it video, be it writing, be it speaking. You had mentioned Toastmasters earlier. I was in Toastmasters for quite a while. And one of the reasons why I joined Toastmasters was because I wanted to do video. Yeah. Like I said, I really wanted to master the art of video. And so that's why I practiced. And I joined Toastmasters. I was in there for a couple of years. But what was very interesting, I do it so naturally, I didn't even realize it was a gift or was something good. Everybody, when they would review my speeches, they would always go, "You're such a good storyteller, Cindy." And I was like, wow, I never knew I was a good storyteller. Yay. So now I'm like, I'm a good storyteller. And it is part of the way that I speak, the way that I share. Right. And like you had talked about the person telling jokes. If they don't know how to do jokes, don't do it. I'm not a good joke teller.
No. But I never remember the punchline, or I say I'm wrong, or, and then it's just, And
so then we're talking about like fears and stuff too. The big fear of anybody, I don't care what it is. Yeah, you could be afraid of being visible. You could be afraid of wasting time, even though I don't believe you're wasting time, because you're learning. You're going from first grade to second grade to third grade. Right. We're always afraid of the unknown. My grandson, he was so cute. He calls me up one time and he's like, "Grandma, I am so afraid." I said, "Well, honey, what are you afraid of?" He goes, "I'm going to go into second grade." Oh, I said, "Well, sweetie." He goes, and I go, what makes you afraid of it?" "I've never been in second grade before." I was like, "Well, honey, was you in first grade before you went into first grade?" No. And how did first grade work for you? Did you like your teacher? Did you make friends? And so then I got him like being okay to go to first grade. And sometimes it's just sitting down talking to yourself. Again, I'm talking about my grandson because he cracks me up. But he was afraid of height. And so he was afraid of flying. My son was always like trying to get him on an airplane, and he would just break into a total anxiety attack. And so my son was like, started teaching him about planes and how safe planes were compared to cars, and just started teaching him about airplanes. And he goes, "Daddy," he goes, "why do you want me to go on an airplane so badly?" And my son says, "Because I can take you to some really cool places that I wouldn't be able to take you to driving." Right. And so he's like, "Okay, Daddy, we'll go on a plane." So my son scheduled a trip. He lives in Phoenix. My daughter lives in Las Vegas. And my grandson just loves his Auntie Amy. So they scheduled a trip to go to Las Vegas. He was excited that he got to see Auntie Amy, right? And plus, before he went on the plane, they let him meet the pilot and see the cockpit. So they did all this stuff. And flying there is a 45-minute flight. Flying there, he was a little bit afraid, but on the way back, he wanted to sit at the window and look out. So it helped him overcome this fear. Right. So the only way you can overcome a fear is by actually doing it. And if we're not doing what we're afraid of, we'll never overcome it. You've got to take that step. Take the, I know Bob Proctor calls it, jumping off the diving board. You got to take the jump. You got to do it. And it's the only way to go through fear, because fear is just this nightmare story we're telling ourselves. Right. And focus on what's going to happen once we do it. when you are visible as well, my mind is going like 100 miles an hour. So with the fears, the basic fear that everything goes down to is you're afraid that you're going to make a fatal mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no fatal mistake unless you choose to make it a fatal mistake.
Ah.
You're going to have haters. And it's horrible sometimes reading comments that people make. You know, I remember on my Facebook group, I do a Q&A every Tuesday for the group where I'll answer any questions they have during the Q&A. And so one day my internet was out, and no, my electricity was out. It was okay, and I live in the middle of the desert, so I think this was last August, if I recall correctly. The electricity was out, and it's hot as heck, you know, so I did myself as much as I could, and so I went to the coffee shop to do my live, and afterwards somebody posted on my Facebook page, they said, "You're not a professional. I don't know why you would say you're a professional. You do this video with frizzy hair in a coffee shop." And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, my hair was frizzy because I couldn't fix it because I don't have any electricity.
And it's 100 degrees.
And it's 100 degrees. And what's interesting is I told this to people at the beginning of the live. I said, hey, I'm in this coffee shop because I wanted to honor my commitment to you. My electricity's out, so I couldn't do my hair. You know, I said all of this at the beginning. But she had issues. She was just...
she's one of those complainers.
And now I deleted that, but also I know that I created I did on my email. I don't remember exactly how I was saying it, but this was hers. And you have to expect that people are going to say this, but just because they say it doesn't mean that it's true. Right. So you always have to step back and ask yourself, you know, am I going to, there's this accept and reject button in your head. Am I going to accept what she said, or am I going to reject it? Right. I know I'm a professional. Just because she thinks I'm not because I have frizzy hair, that's her problem. Right. There's somebody else, I don't know if you've ever heard of her, Molly Mahoney. She's called the prepared performer. She used to be, she used to be actresses and stuff, and now she teaches people how to perform on video. And she's one of my guest speakers on the Rocking Online Visibility Summit. So you want to sign up, you know, and see her. But she's, she tells a story about she has a lisp. And so somebody was telling her she shouldn't be on video because she has a lisp. Well, how rude. So there are really cruel people out there, and you just have to say, okay, they're cruel. And if you flip the switch and say, I can't handle this, then that's the only fatal mistake. Right. When I was, my very first time, I was on Huffington Post Live. On the first time that I was on it, they invited me on it because I had wrote a story about finding a friend with benefits after divorce. And so I was in this panel of people, and my theory still is, that it is better to have a friend with benefits than it is to have several one-night stands. Okay? And this is what I was trying to say, but I was nervous, you know, being on Huffington Post Live. Oh, yeah. I wasn't relating it as clearly as what I related it just now. And Huffington Post, when they were marketing this episode, said, certified divorce coach Cindy J Holbrook tells all of her clients to find a friend with benefits. Oh. Oh my God, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. And I thought, my business is over. I might as well just go back to social services. I might as well find a job. You know, believe me, I did some crying. And then, you know, at first I was looking at the comments, and it was like, no. Couldn't look at the comments underneath this Huffington Post Live. That was like, I had to stop that really quick because that was just really taking me down. But then I started getting emails and phone calls. Wow, I really loved your interview. You know, I want to coach with you. I got so many clients off of that. And I thought, wow, I could have stayed down in the dumps and said my business is over and shut it down. Right. But that would have been me. Nobody can shut your business down, but yourself.
Right. Right.
And so had I been so embarrassed over this and just shut down and not looked at my emails or my phone calls or anything, I would not have ever been able to build the successful business that I did.
Right.
But because I was able to step past it.
Mm-hmm.
Because these people, number one, they were not my ideal clients.
No.
Number two, they all had their own issues and they just wanted to talk it out on me.
Mm-hmm.
They all had their own opinions, which most of them didn't agree with the way I made the
Mm-hmm.
post, promoted it. But it was just a very interesting experience for me. But
Right.
a lot of people, they would have thought that would be a fatal mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody like Huffington Post Live misquoting you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I didn't choose to let it,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't choose to stay down.
Mm-hmm.
So know that there is no fatal mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how bad it is. You look at
Mhm.
some of these actors even, they get all these bad publicity,
Mhm.
and it's absolutely horrible.
Mhm.
So they, but all it does is propel their business because that's the mindset that they're in.
Right.
So to be visible, number one, decide what you want to be known for.
Mhm.
Know exactly who your ideal clients are
Mhm.
and what it is, what language they speak,
Mhm.
what values do they have that you have, what makes the two of you connect and click.
Right.
Because you don't want to date everyone. You only want that 30% that are going to
Mhm.
love you.
Right.
And then be very, very consistent across the board
Mhm.
with what you're speaking about. And allow them to come to you. Whenever you're visible and you're speaking their language, they're going to come to you.
Mhm.
I did want to give, a couple tips here. Number one, with Facebook. Everybody always talks about Facebook.
Mhm.
And, a lot of people sort of know this, but they're not doing it 100% right. You find 5 groups that cater to your ideal audience. Now, if you're like a holistic health coach,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that you're going to all these other holistic coach sites.
Right.
It means where are your clients,
Mhm. Right. Is it a
your
group
ideal
on
client.
chronic
You
pain?
want to find 5 groups.
Mhm.
Pardon?
Maybe it's a group for people who have chronic pain.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yes. And so then you're finding 5 groups that cater to your ideal audience,
Mhm.
and then you join them.
Mhm.
You're not spamming your stuff. You're not
Right.
saying, hey, get my free report,
Mhm.
get my free visibility checklist, visit visibilitychecklist.com now. And you can't actually do that because that is my checklist that I offer you. But I won't go into these other groups and do that
Right.
because I'm going to be kicked off.
Mhm.
And that's just spamming and it's yucky.
Mhm.
What you want to do is you want to take 15 minutes every day and look to see people that are asking questions about your expertise.
Okay.
And then you answer their questions.
Mhm.
You do not self-promote yourself.
Mhm.
You showing your expertise is promotion enough.
Mhm.
This is you being the business owner inside the shop waiting for them to come to you.
Mhm.
If you have your Facebook personal profile set up correctly where they know about your business
Mhm.
from your personal profile,
Mhm.
then whenever they check you out, it's going to naturally lead them to you.
Right.
If you go to my personal profile, you can find my website, cindyjholbrook.com. You can find my Facebook group, Get Seen, Get Known, Get Clients. You can find my other social media links, but it's all there on my personal profile. Because when somebody's trying to figure out who you are,
Mhm.
chances are, especially on Facebook, they're going to find your personal profile before they find your business
Right.
stuff.
Mhm.
And this is how you can really get to be an expert really quick because you're not just saying, hey, get this, get that, get this, buy my stuff. You're answering questions, you're showcasing your expertise,
Mhm.
and people are naturally going to be inclined to want to know more. They're going to check you out, and you're naturally leading them to your business.
Mhm.
Something else that I think a lot of people don't realize is guest blogging, guest posting is still really a hot way
Mhm.
to build your business. And it's evergreen. It will stay there forever.
Mhm.
But don't just say, hey, Deb, can I guest post on your blog?
Right.
You want to be strategic about it. So whatever you want to be visible for, again, the skincare for young boys with acne.
Mhm.
So what you would do is you would Google teenage boys with acne
Mhm.
and see what comes up in the top 10. the first page of Google, then look at those websites and see if they accept guest posts. If they accept guest posts, follow their guidelines and put your pitch in for a guest post. This here is going to, number one, you have a better chance of getting on the first page of Google because that website's already there.
Right.
And number two, you have this evergreen thing. Make sure that you can, again, have your bio there. Like, my bios would say, again, download your free visibility checklist at visibilitychecklist.com. Because this way, people get on my list, and that's how they get to know me. For everything I've been talking about so far is that initial attraction. You see somebody across the room, boom, you like them. But whenever you get them on your list or in your Facebook group, but more on your list because they're a little,
that's your
they pay
list.
more attention to email. They're not distracted by everything else. Then this is the dating period, and all the dating period is getting to know each other. And so you got to date somebody before you make the big proposal to take the next step. And that's where you would ask them, for the business. And whenever you follow this strategy, you can really build a very good, successful business where you're not being salesy, you're not being spammy, you're just being uniquely who you are. You're allowing people, your ideal clients, to come to you naturally. And this is how you have fun in your business because you're only doing what's fun for you and what you enjoy doing. You're being honest to your own values. You're being who you are, and you're not, and again, this is what's attracting your ideal clients.
Right. And I love, that you talk about, being on someone's podcast, or, guest blogging. But it does have to be specific. I get pitches from people all the time. So-and-so, or themselves would make a great guest on your program. And I'm like, okay, and part of it is there have been some people who think so much of themselves that they assume that I'm going to know who they are. Well, no. And so don't make me hunt for it, which is why I have a form that people fill out, where I ask them, what are you going to talk about? Some things like that. And there are some people who I've said, it sounds great, but probably not a good fit. That's actually very rare. Usually I can find something that will work. But yeah, if you're going to pitch that you should be, a guest blogger, tell them, here's what I would like to talk about, or send them a sample blog post or something, because we're very busy people. Don't make us go off and find that information, because we won't do it. And even if it's, somebody that you recognize, you're still not going to do that. So be as helpful as you can in order to provide that content.
Exactly. And always follow their directions. And whenever you do that, you're just building connections with people. My podcast, Biz Success in 15, I interview top experts who share 15-minute strategies to build your business. And again, I have that in there. It's top experts. So if you've been in business for a month, please don't ask me to be a guest on my show, because I don't think you've established yourself yet.
Probably
but
not.
The same with you. I don't get too many of them, and I haven't really said no to too many people, but I will. And that's a part of growing your confidence and knowing what your business is knowing, hey, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no.
Right. Well, oh my gosh, Cindy J, we are almost at the top of the hour. You've got some great services that you provide. So again, tell people how they find you and connect with you online.
Well, first of all, you can go to visibilitychecklist.com and download. It's 7 steps that's going to radically up-level your visibility online. So you can grab that free report and go for it. But on June 10th of 2019, I am hosting my 2nd annual Rocking Online Visibility Summit.
Great.
So you can go to rockingonlinevisibility.com and sign up for the summit. It's absolutely free. You will have the option to upgrade if you choose, but you can listen to 32 top experts in their field, helping you with things like Instagram, video, and I don't think I have a Twitter person this year. I know it's Instagram, video, Pinterest, Facebook, all of these things where you can step out and be authentic and be who you are and get visible.
Great.
You know, my motto is get seen, which is just, again, that initial attraction across the room. Get known as an expert. And the way that you get known as an expert is by knowing what you want to be known for and shouting it on top of the world, and to get clients, because that's why we're all in business. We want to help people, and we want to earn a living while we're doing it.
You talk about props. Here's my one and only prop.
I love it. Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, I actually have like a wizard hat, and I have a wand.
Oh, I love it.
But I have a mask I used to put on, because a lot of times people, they're hiding. In the corporate world, we're taught that we have to act a certain way. In social services, I had to act a certain way, speak a certain language. So that's a way we're taught whenever we've been in any sort of corporate, or even if you've worked like a Jack in the Box, you have to act a certain way there. But today, people want the real you, and they want all of you. And so that's why visibility is so important whenever you is to let go of that mask that you've been wearing and just really let people see who you are.
Perfect. What a great way to end this. And so we are going to end that. So remember that, folks. You can visit Cindy's information and see her website at CindyJHolbrook.com. CindyJHolbrook.com. And, so Cindy.
Did you hear me, Deb?
Yes.
It's so CindyJHolbrook.com.
Make sure that you go in and visit all of, and see all the information there. I am Deb Creer. I've been having an absolutely delightful time talking with Cindy J. Holbrook. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer. Join us next time for more real-life stories and techniques to power up your business.
You've been listening to C-Suite Radio. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.